It's a podcast about musicals. My, this was a movie. It was about a Greek island where there was lots of people doing lots of dancing. Mamma Mia 2 is the movie. This is Hurd Ya Saw. My, what an expensive intro. Mamma Mia, here we go again. That was the intro to this episode. People have often told me that I have a voice
of an angel
for podcasting, actually. Welcome back to Hurd Ya Saw. It's Christmas Eve, but this isn't actually going to go on the internet until well after the new year. So, welcome to already a confusing episode of the show.
Temporally adrift.
Yeah, as I mentioned 2 episodes back, a lot of the episodes have been recorded and then put up out of order, so this will be confusing. Anyway, I'm joined today, it's a family show. I'm joined by Maddie.
Hi!
Returning to the podcast.
It's my podcast!
Third podcast and a newcomer, my mum. Hi, Mum.
Hello.
Would you want to be Tacey or Mum, or shall we...
Which do you feel more comfortable
Well, we'll probably call you Mum, but Tacey for the people who are listening.
This is our mum, Tacey.
Yeah.
When we say mum, that's who we mean.
That is who we mean. And we just watched the movie Mamma Mia. Here we go again?
Here we go.
Here we go again.
Here
Okay.
we go again.
Here we
Yes.
go again.
Again.
We begin the show, as ever, with a fun round of one-line hot takes. Mum, in case you've never listened to my podcast show, and thus have just given up on ever supporting me in anything,
It's fine.
one-line hot takes is that we just give a quick, short sentence summarising our thoughts on the film very, very quickly, and then we'll have the discussion, then we'll round it up at the end with final thoughts to see if anything has changed. Oh my god, it's like a little round, beautiful circle of podcast engineering. Maddie!
Yes?
Your one-line hot take of Mamma Mia 2, here we go again.
I mean, it was very nice, really. And kind of dumb. And some parts were genuinely affecting.
Excellent. I liked the way your accent drifted as well. Mum, your one-line hot take on Mamma Mia 2, here we go again.
Well, I was the member of the viewing audience this evening who'd seen it before, and it confirmed all the pleasure I got out of it the first time. It's a great bad film.
I love that. It's a great bad film.
And when I saw it the first time in the cinema, I sobbed madly at the ending, and so was everybody else in the cinema.
Lovely. And my one-line hot take, holy crap, Meryl Streep is dead.
She is.
Indeed. So,
She's not actually dead. Don't take that out of context.
I mean, she's dead. You've heard it here first. We're going to be on TMZ trending hashtag Death of Streep. So we're going to just do a quick summary of the plot.
Very quick.
Yeah, we're not going to fall into the trap of what happened on the Aquaman cast last time, where it's just like an hour and a half.
90 minutes.
Yeah, 90-minute podcast of us losing our minds. Shall I? You feel free to jump in if you want to. Meryl Streep is dead, and the kingdom is in ruins. Amanda Seyfried playing Donna. Well,
Sophie.
Donna, who is Meryl Streep, is dead, and her daughter Sophie, played by Amanda Seyfried, is finally
Alive.
opening the hotel on the Greek island.
Donna's dream.
Yes, living her mother's dream, and she's got a new hotel manager who is very
Andy Garcia.
indeed handsome with a silver beard,
Garcia.
and one of her 3 dads is
Yes,
present.
she's got the heartbroken Pierce Brosnan, who had been identified at the end of Mamma Mia 1 as being the love of Donna's life, and they danced up the very steep steps to the church.
Oh, yes!
Yeah, so he's the
Yes.
stepdad.
His name
Stepdad?
is Sam, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. And basically she's very stressed out about whether things are going to go well, and her husband? They're married, aren't they?
No, because they didn't get married, because that's the point of Mamma Mia 1.
I'm glad we've got you here.
Yeah, I can't remember the plot of Mamma
No,
Mia
the whole
1.
point is that she didn't get married, but Donna did get married.
Oh, that's
they
the
used
twist.
all her wedding trappings for Donna to get married.
to
Yes,
Sam.
Right,
But
right.
she didn't marry Sky because they're free spirits.
And she didn't feel ready.
And meanwhile, Sky is in a CGI brownstone in New York, working in the hotel industry.
For 6 weeks.
Yes, to gain experience of
But
hoteling.
he's been offered a permanent job.
And that'll be a hanging action that will never really pay off. Meanwhile, we flash back to the graduation ceremony at the University of Oxford.
New College, Oxford, apparently. I can't remember if that actually is New College. Although I think it's the right lane.
on the street, or okay, right, where we see
bicycles right outside, Maddie.
Yes, they do. Have you seen Oxford?
where we see a young Donna
They're not completely like
graduate from Oxford in style, and then go off to seek her fortune in the Mediterranean Sea, drawn by some mysterious force of destiny to a small Greek island that will become the site of all the
Don't
major
forget,
events.
on the way, entirely so that Waterloo, famous ABBA hit, can be worked into the plot, she makes an entirely unnecessary visit to Paris.
where she also encounters the
Young Colin Firth.
not love of her life at all,
Yeah.
who's just, he's wonderful.
He's so closeted.
So the interesting thing about this movie for me is I didn't expect this to technically be it's like a prequel / origin story
Yes.
of the character of Donna / Meryl Streep, which is not a direction I would have gone in for
Well,
a sequel.
simultaneously, all the other characters trying to come to terms with her loss.
Yes, because as this movie makes abundantly clear, she is the fulcrum around which all events turn.
Yes.
And it's dizzy and even subtly addressed by the movie at many points that people are like, man, Donna's just kind of like taking over everything, and I'd quite like to have fun with young, not Bill Skarsgård.
Bill.
It was Bill.
Stephen
Bill.
Skarsgård?
Yeah, young Stephen.
Stefan Sarsgaard, he's Bill.
Yes, Stefan Skarsgård,
Scandi
on
hunk.
his boat. Yes, hot Scandi hunk.
But I can't because I'm Julie Walters and my role is thankless.
Yeah,
Cake.
I will always be a wallflower with a big slice of cake in front of me.
There are
Maddie,
worse ways to live.
as your first
Yes.
time viewing this film, what did you make of this movie? Or what would you like to talk about this
Well, I
movie?
mean,
It's
it was
probably a
just
more open
kind of-
question.
The thing is, like, I saw Mamma Mia on the stage and I loved it and I thought it was amazing. And then when the movie came out, I was like, this wasn't as good as it was on the stage.
I will agree.
And so I wasn't exactly going to this with high expectations. I mean, tonally it was kind of flat all the way through, really.
Is this musically tonally or just or narratively
I'm
tonally?
not my sister. I won't get into the music stuff, although some of the performances were quite subdued vocally, but I meant narratively tonally. It's just people are kind of sad, but they sing and dance.
And they keep pushing forward.
And they don't quite know where they're going in life, but they have each other.
And dreams.
Many dreams.
Yes.
And
Except Sophie. She's not allowed any of her own dreams.
no,
So
I
you
mean,
can only complete on your mother's ambitions.
I mean, I did think that, like, I actually quite liked the sort of the whole, like, mourning my mum and then, like, moving forward to become a mum myself, and, like, and kind of the, makeshift family that we kind of have, that's nice. But I was kind of like, yeah, but, like, maybe she doesn't want to, like, I mean, I guess she does want to stay on the island.
Maybe she should go to New York with
Yeah,
Scar.
like, and he's decided that he doesn't want anything that's not her, which is like, that's fine, but I mean, but, Mum, you promised me a dog on roller skates, and there was no dog on roller skates. What the hell?
When did you promise a dog on roller skates?
In the film, she said there was a dog on roller skates, and there wasn't. But I'm kind of like, it just sort of happened at me, and my heart has grown maybe like one size.
Not the full 3.
Not the full 3, but I mean, that was in part due to the end credits, which were really sweet, because I also kind of like that whole, like, your older self and your younger self are, like, dancing together, it's all symbolic.
I'm a big fan of the cross-generation temporal, let us, like, subtly baton pass kind of thing.
Yeah, that was really sweet.
That was cool.
Also, Cher was in it. We haven't mentioned Cher.
We haven't gotten
and
to
that's
Cher yet.
terrible.
I feel like that's a topic that we're going to creep up on. I want to sort of paint the shades of, the opinions of the movie
like
and stuff.
The peak of the pyramid. Isn't
It is quite something. One thing I will say about this film that I think works better than the first one based on my memory of the first movie, and this is the first movie rather than the stage show, because there's a whole discussion to be had, which we may have a portion of like the difference between musicals in film and musicals on stage, because it comes back to that thing that with theatre, there's more of an acceptance of the inherent artifice of the
Yes,
situation,
yeah.
because it's like, well, they're on a stage, and like nothing's completely 100% naturalistic, and so when people burst into song, your
Yeah.
brain kind of goes, yeah.
I actually found that harder to get behind than in most film musicals this time. I think because, well, you pointed out, didn't you, Mum, like, no, in the first song, they were actually really singing. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I kept looking, like, they could be really singing now. They could be really singing now.
Halfway through the film, I said, she was like, "Oh, I've got a band," and I was like, "Wait, she's in a band?" And they were like, and Bob and Maddie were like, "Yes, in the first scene when she's in Oxford singing with her friends in costume, that's them being in a band." And I'm like, "That's not just the musical happening." Like, no, that's literally them being in a band.
It's a big thing in the first film that it was Donna and the Dynamos.
I had forgotten that. But I felt that this, in some ways, committed a lot harder to the idea of trying to sort of string things together as sort of like, let's do musical number,
Yes.
rather than being sort of musical number, plot, 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 musical number,
Yeah,
plot,
I mean,
plot.
it was basically an excuse to string a lot of ABBA songs together.
Yes, it was. I felt that because the first film was based on the stage musical, which was much more cleverly plotted. I mean, that was obviously the first time they'd thought of doing it.
Yes.
Putting the ABBA songs together. There was more story. Whereas with this, the story is pretty rubbish, really. But
I mean, it's one story that we already knew, and one kind of coda to a loss that happened before the film started. So
it's a bit thin. But I think I came into this film having read, obviously, some of the pre-publicity when the film came out.
Can you stop kicking the
Because I saw it
table?
in the cinema when it came out.
Yeah.
And I read an interview with Pierce Brosnan and another one with Colin Firth, and both of them said, basically, particularly Colin Firth, they'd all had such a ball doing the first film, and they'd all were doing quite a lot of serious stuff in their real lives elsewhere.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh my God, we can go back to this lovely setting and completely faff about.
Yes.
yeah, I'd say that came through pretty strongly.
And also, as I commented when we were watching the film to the other two, Pierce Brosnan said when they phoned him up, he said, "Is Meryl in it? And is Stefan and Colin in it?" And they said, "Yeah, but they've all agreed." And he was like, "Count me in."
Oh.
And and I think you do get that there's real affection, that they did enjoy being together.
Yeah.
And Colin Firth said they did a lot of ad-libbing, and I think the fact that a lot of it was just absolutely faff, just because they were basically faffing, they were ad-libbing, and I think that quality came through.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I agree with you, there's quite a lot of nice chemistry in moments
Yeah.
between some characters. I mean, I think we were all kind of in agreement that in terms of just quality of acting, I think Colin Firth sort of like steals the show with like just a couple of lines.
With his Firthiness.
Yeah, there was really a marked difference between him and the person pretending to be young him, and I'm just like, oh dear son, you've got
Young
to...
him was a bit of a charisma-free zone.
Yeah, he's got to try and be Colin Firth, specifically young at the peak of my sexual powers, Colin Firth.
And I mean, did this guy not even watch the 90s Pride and Prejudice?
I doubt it. I don't think he was alive when that film came out.
It's also that, I mean, I know having seen this in the cinema, I then was looking at more reviews, and it's quite a big issue for discussion online. I know that obviously it was an important plot point in Mamma Mia, both stage show and Mamma Mia 1 on the film, that Colin Firth is gay. His character is gay.
Yeah.
And that is not addressed at all.
Yeah.
I think they should have shown him having a boyfriend. Like,
I feel like I may have been like projecting, or like, you know, just vaguely sort of seeing things that I wanted to see. But you know, in the Dunkirk scene,
yes!
when all the boats are like riding up, which is a great moment. I think that's a wonderful moment in the film.
Yeah.
While they're all dancing around on the deck, I feel certain that I saw Colin Firth with a gentleman being kind of like, yeah, kind of like couplesy dancing a little bit.
I mean, we didn't see that at all.
I felt like I saw that. I may have imagined it. And I was sort of remember going, oh yeah, then maybe his like boyfriend or whatever who was somewhere. And then we never get any deliverance of that being like, oh, I'm here, and also this is Chuck or whoever.
Yeah, and I mean, so that's one issue, and also, I as I said, there was the whole issue about why he and Donna sleep together.
Yes.
And that you've certainly given to understand in the stage thing, though I can't remember because it's so long ago that we saw it, that is literally the only time he sleeps with a girl, because after that he's like, oh no, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, he's like, you're love of my life.
Yeah. He's all like, I'm a virgin, and also sleep with me, and that was amazing, and oh no, I was bad. Well, time to follow you to Greece, but then give up.
Yes.
It's a terrible role.
Yeah,
You have to admit.
yeah,
He wasn't great, but it was a terrible role.
I'd rather have been him than Julie Walters, though. At least
Oh,
he got the
it's
restaurant.
She got
awful.
some fun lines though, I think. Like, well, young Julie Walters got more fun
I'm
lines
talking
than...
about
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about old Julie Walters.
Oh,
Sorry, old
present
It
day
was a
Julie
waste of
Walters.
Julie. I mean, the thing is, it is difficult because I felt she was given terrible clothes, terrible lines, and she is a great actor.
And she was playing opposite Christine Baranski.
And she's playing opposite Christine Baranski,
Who just
A
bumps
is
in and
Christine
steals
Baranski,
everything.
and B had amazing outfits,
Yeah.
and cool lines, and I felt that they really stressed the difference between them in a really unfair way.
Yeah, it did feel a little like punching down at some point, so I'm
Yeah.
just kind of like, oh man.
On the other hand, Julie Walters got back with Stefan Skarsgård, so there's that.
Very unconvincingly.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah, can we talk about the catalyst for that particular romantic entanglement coming back? He's like, hello, I'd like to get back together. And she's like, no, you've been emotionally closed off and like weird.
I need you to experience real loss and pain and misery once in your life.
And he's like, well, I guess we'll just have to be friends. And then she goes, Donna would have loved this party. Instant tears!
He starts crying like...
Because I've lost your friend, I'm going to therefore let you kiss me.
Yes, and she's like, oh, now that you're sad about the one friend who in previous scenes I was jealous over for stealing, like, you know...
Making a move on the hot
Yeah.
Swede with the boat.
Taking all the hot Swedes with boats of the world that I would have perhaps wanted to have, but couldn't because she was the front woman, and clearly I'm the frumpy one with the cake. And then she's like, oh, you poor man with your tears, let me comfort you on my bosom. And that's it, that's the scene, and you're just like, oh. I will say, like, Dominic Cooper...
I was just thinking about Dominic Cooper.
Dominic Cooper, a performer I very much like, during filming this, he was also working on the AMC series Preacher, which had, as I said while we were watching it, kind of similar energy, in the same way that Mamma Mia 2 is very a musical and very much doesn't seem to take place in any recognisable form of our reality.
It absolutely doesn't.
Yeah, you know, there was a brief reference to the Eurozone crisis for
Was
Greece.
there?
Yeah, remember when
Oh yeah,
they meet all the fishermen in the
yes,
bar?
We sit and contemplate our economic decline.
Yeah, they're like, hey, do you want to come and get drunk on ours? Yeah, Dunkirk! There's the jolly old British spirit jollying along the foreigners. The thing is though that Preacher similarly takes place in an area that's completely, it's a hyper insane reality kind of thing. And I saw an interview with him where he was sort of like, yeah, it was an interesting transition because in Preacher he plays a severely damaged guy who at the time when he was in it was just in the process of running an underground fight club between zombies.
Okay.
And then he would be like, well, I'm off to Greece to go and like be like, hey, I love you and I want to be with you forever, rather than being like, I'm in New Orleans and everything is miserable. But in a similar way, I'm like, I can see how that transition was like kind of easy because it's like, none of this is real. This is great. I'm a big fan. Now
Cher.
we'll get to Cher. We're not there yet.
Sorry.
A thing I'm a big fan of is I really like films where they end with a ghost of a major character smiling and looking on at the events that have happened, or even better, giving some kind of monologue about the events that have
Do
occurred.
you like them or do you like to mock them?
No, I think they're brilliant fun. I think sometimes they're a bit crap, but also like it's
But
hilarious.
That's part of the fun, isn't it?
Yes. The level up from that, which I was unaware of, is having Ghost Meryl Streep at the christening of her granddaughter singing about the moral of the film, kind of.
What is the moral of the film? You'll never be alone once you had a baby?
Yeah, have kids, ladies. That's the moral. Here's the thing.
My life, my love.
Family! Family is the moral.
Yes, kind of.
Love! Love!
Yes.
Love!
Super Troopers.
All you need is love!
That's the Beatles.
Wrong group.
But I have one of the things it kind of leads me to is that we were commenting that some of the songs worked quite well for what they were used for in the movie. Other songs were confusing and didn't quite work as well.
And some songs were, I mean, it was kind of basically mostly a combination of ABBA songs I didn't know and ABBA songs they've used in the last film.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, but like they didn't make enough use of Gimme Gimme Gimme, Voulez-Vous, or Under Attack in the film. They had like a whole Under Attack dream sequence filmed and they cut it.
Really?
Yes!
I didn't know that.
Still mad.
Oh.
But, so if you're going to reuse songs from the film, why don't you reuse ones that I like? Although I do like Angel Eyes, although that was a bit like, we're going to sing now!
Yeah.
And that's another one where it didn't quite fit.
Yeah,
I mean,
you were like, what are you trying to say here?
well, I was kind of like, I don't think that Dominic Cooper deserves this song. I don't think he's actually done anything really wrong.
Well, he
with
also
it.
got, was it One of Us Is Lonely?
One of Us.
Yeah, One of Us.
Together,
yeah, and we're like, he only said they've offered me a cool job in New York, and apparently highly paid, and we could live not on an island that gets hit by tropical storms.
I mean, the trouble is really that's quite a deep, important conversation to have with your partner, I think. Like, I mean, this is actually a big question about their future.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, like, is there a better ABBA song? I feel there probably is.
Here's another thing that I noticed, is that there seemed to be a kind of form of diminishing returns on the elaborate nature of the musical sequences as the film progressed. Because, like, you look at the opening number with, like, I Kissed My Teacher, like, full-on outfit changes, massive cast of dancers, multiple changing locations, bike
Bicycles.
riding, jumping on a boat, jumping off the boat, etc.,
Oh god, I
etc.
forgot the dancing on the houseboat.
Yeah, then Waterloo, you have dancing waiters in costume, like the weird bit where they seem to get beheaded, but they're not beheaded.
It's
dancing.
wonderful, isn't it?
I think that was possibly my favourite,
It was a
musical
really well
sequence.
choreographed
It's
scene.
just wonderful.
Yeah.
It's entirely batty, but it's wonderful.
Indeed.
And I mean, kudos to young Colin Firth. He did put that across well.
He did, he went for
He
it.
could dance.
But on the other hand, then, as the film went on, you got, like, for example, Dancing Queen kind of works, but because it's just like, all the boats come in,
Yeah.
they all dance down,
That
they
was
all
quite a
dance together.
nice
I'm like,
moment,
that's
yeah.
nice, but it's still kind of like, I feel like for what's meant to be one of the most massive set pieces, I wanted it to be a bit bigger and crazier. And then, like, was it Angel Eyes the one where it's just, we're just walking through and singing?
They did do that.
Yeah, and
Angel Eyes is the one between Christine Moransky and Julie Walters and Sophie.
yeah, where it's sort of like, we're just kind of walking around and...
They're amazed.
In wafty dresses.
Yes, kind of. Yeah.
Was that when you said I'm not sure that everybody knows what they're doing in this scene?
Yeah, there were just people just kind of like, yeah, I'm here.
Well, certainly what I think I noticed, particularly with the scenes on the island, which weren't really big. I mean, like on the boats, at least all the fishermen were very choreographed.
Yes.
But there were scenes in the hotel where people were actually banging into each other. I don't know if you noticed. They were like a bit late, sort of, and they weren't waving their arms in unison and so on. I felt that the hotel staff had been insufficiently advised that they were taking part in the musical.
Well, I mean,
Perhaps
maybe they
needed
were
more
like, oh,
briefing.
geez, we thought the song and dance numbers had ended.
I mean,
oh, God, she's come back.
There were a lot of song and dance numbers. I can certainly imagine a choreography being like, shit, we have not got enough choreography for this.
Just do what you did before, okay?
But equally, like, with Fernando, which in an odd way is kind of the crescendo of the movie?
Yes.
That's because, and I know you don't want to get to it yet.
No, we're going to go into... Well, this is my segue. We're going to get into the Cher
Yeah.
thing now.
It is the climax because it's just that Cher burns with the 1,000 megawatt superstar
Of Shareness.
of Cher-ness, which nobody else possibly on the face of the earth has to in exactly the same bizarre way.
Yes, she's magnetic in this film. Not possibly in the way that you want, because it's like she enters the movie and everyone else is less interesting.
Yes.
that's
And I'm
true.
just like, I mean, I like Cher, and she's far and away the best singer in this piece. But equally, who? Why? What? Mexico?
We just needed Cher, okay? Also, we needed Fernando, which is a song that I like.
I like
When
the song
when
Fernando.
when I saw it with Zoe, her comment was, well, Cher was absolutely right in the comment she made about Amanda Seyfried singing, And she said, I think she said to me, you said that people ad libbed. She said, I think Cher just said that straight off the top of her head.
Yeah. Well, you were a bit pitchy. And I'm just like, oh!
Your timing was off, you were a bit pitchy. And she said, it's absolutely right, she was.
Yeah?
And she said, she said to her, is more or less what you're saying, is that, she said her singing is so different in quality from everybody else.
Yeah.
But it's not just that, it's the quality of Cher, it's the Cher-ness.
Yeah.
But the singing also is in such a different league from everybody else because they decided when they did the film, as against the stage show, that they wouldn't use professional singers. They would
use known people.
They would use known
Pierce
people.
Brosnan.
Yeah.
They would use Pierce Brosnan.
Well, they try and use Pierce Brosnan is the accurate term.
To be fair to him, he has never for a moment claimed.
Oh, no.
No.
He's been very frank and always like, yeah, I know, I'm terrible, but I love it.
And he exuded dadness in this.
It was very dad. But here's the thing.
But your comment is, I totally agree with it. It's as though she came on and she was then, from then on, she was in Technicolor, even though she was actually looking very black and white in her outfit and get-up. She then made everybody else look rather faded.
Well, here's the thing. With something like the Fernando sequence, because of the lyrics of that song and because of the the magnetic power of Roland Garcia and Cher and them he did quite well actually holding his own in that sequence of
yes, you were a
he's not-
suitable mate for Cher.
She was dignified.
yeah, and he wasn't completely overpowered by it, which was good. But I feel like if I had been doing that, it would have been like their eyes would have met across the crowd and he would have been like, Ruby! And it's like hard cut, we're in the fucking desert. And it's just the two of them and she's wearing kind of massive swooshy dress and the sky is on fire.
Yes,
and they sing their torrid love song and we fade back to reality and they're holding each other in the middle and it's like the most powerful thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
That's the kind of musical whoosh that this movie started with and then it just didn't quite keep because the credits.
Yeah,
The Super
fabulous.
Trooper sequence are amazing because it's full on timelines crashing into each other. Everyone's in ridiculous outfits, all posing and fireworks.
You're quite
and,
right. Actually, thinking about it, I'm just mentally transposing Cher and Andy Garcia to like a desert scene, as you said. And I think that could actually have worked because although, as I understand it, his CV is very different from hers. He's not a musical.
He's quite a serious actor.
He's a
isn't
serious
he?
actor. He obviously has great gravitas. And
there is a storm coming. So you're like, oh, is the storm
there
Cher?
definitely is a storm coming. I think if you'd done it and it was just the two of them without the crowd around them, as you suggest, in like a desert scene, and it was like it was all happening in their heads. I agree. I think that would have been better. And actually, if you then snap back to reality, you wouldn't have had such a disconnect between them and the crowd because they didn't go with the rest of the crowd. That's the problem, isn't it?
Also, I have to say that generally in musicals, I mean, certainly in film musicals, I kind of think like either everyone on the stage should be singing and participating in the number, or like one person should be doing it and everyone else should be ignoring that they're singing.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm just thinking,
Go
go with me, I'm just thinking about the film version of Rent.
Okay.
And Maureen's song Over the Moon. When you just imagine her like performing that and there's no audience reaction or anything, it's hilarious and wonderful. And then when you see people actually responding and clapping
and going, yeah, go girl!
It
and you're
sort
like,
of makes
no.
the whole thing look stupid. And I did feel a bit like I said, I was kind of like, people are like all looking at Cher and being like, wow, Cher has found her boyfriend. Wow, this is amazing. And I'm like, what?
And also, a part of me would be like, why are these people so, because they're like, who's that? What?
It's Cher.
Fernando? What? But yeah, I feel like it comes like you were saying about the way that people in the scene needs to be a part of it because that's the nature of what a musical is. When it's on stage, you don't really have superfluous people because
they could just trundle off into the
wings.
wings.
They can go into the wings or they dance or they provide backing vocals or something or they throw a prop to the lead guy as he's prancing around on a table. They're going, yeah, or whatever.
Yeah.
I was thinking like a Guys and Dolls something. Never mind. But with film, you both have the ability to do that way harder because you can, through the power of editing, put your performers literally anywhere. Like, you know, the whole sequence. I think that the One of Us sequence actually worked quite well. Because it was just Amanda Seyfried and Dominic Cooper.
Yeah.
But they kept, you know, cutting between them and moving physically the camera from making their locations both the same but different. And I'm like, that's good. That's clever.
And actually, as well, I did quite like it when it's like Julie and Christine and Amanda like walking through the hotel as it is. Transposed with Donna discovering it when she came to it and it was all ruined, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's
I
nice.
can't remember if there was actually a song involved in that.
Yes, there was a song.
Does anyone remember what the song was?
No.
It was an ABBA song.
Yes, in all likelihood.
You're just guessing. You're just guessing.
You don't know that.
But no, again, Nick, that kind of stuff is nice, I think.
Yeah,
And that's a good point.
It is a bit as though there was, in terms of like the effort put into the production, it was as like they were up and then it sort of sagged down, and then you had a jerk up when the boats were coming in, the Titanic Dunkirk bit, and then it kind of sagged a bit, and then it went up for the credits.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, again, with the boat sequence, like, part of the thing that made that sequence feel less, like, punchy to me in terms of, like, the sort of delirious fun of it, is that they respected the real geography of the island too much. I would have rather it been like, the boats are coming, they're like, oh my god, the boats are coming! And then, like, the boats literally just, like, crash into the hotel. And it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. It's like, no, it doesn't need to. And then they all jump off the boats into the hotel. And then you have a dance sequence in the hotel. There was a lot of, like, we're dancing and walking.
Yeah,
We've got quite a long way to go.
And that was when I said, hang on, is this really singing? And you were like, no, hyper-reality. And I was like, yeah, I know. But
And like going very awkwardly around that woman with her sticks.
Yeah, and you're like, what? Who? What?
Yes.
I tell you what, I found myself mentally comparing it with, and I don't think I did this in the cinema. I think it worked better for me in the cinema, but seeing it again, I would agree with what you're saying. Is when you compare it with the start of, Austin Powers.
Yeah, you were a big fan of that sequence. Austin Powers, the first one, International Man of Mystery. Yeah.
Where you've got a huge street scene, but it's completely mad.
Yeah.
And and the way that it's staged is obviously, as you say, using people who would have had to have flown through the air and so on.
Yeah.
But it's heaven.
Yeah.
It's absolute heaven. It's so smart and clever.
And it commits to the notion that, like, this is a dance number now, or a musical sequence.
It's not a geographical.
Yeah, we don't need to make.
In space.
Yeah, it sort of comes back to that thing that in filmmaking, there's a thing that I think Jim has often said to me, which is in writing generally, which I'm sure you'll agree. You don't always go with what is correct. You go with what is entertaining. You go with the thing that, like, well, I want this to happen, so I'm going to do that, even if there are ways that I have to fudge things a bit to get that, because it's what the narrative wants.
Yes, I agree. And also, similarly, they said in writing, don't be like, he got up and he went to work and then he came home and then he went round to Rosie's. It's like, no, don't do that. Cut straight to the orgy at Rosie's place.
He wants to go to Rosie's. He's like, oh my god, Rosie, you're having sex with Mr. Miggins from round the corner.
Also,
that's the important
The other
bit.
thing that flickered through my mind this time, in that scene, was, you know what? Looking at Pierce Brosnan being Dad. My God, he'd be out of breath by the time he danced all the way down from the.
Well, the bit when they were walking up the stairs at the end.
He did pause and act like he was out of breath at one point.
Yeah, there was the bit when they were all coming up the stairs for the christening to the top of the church, and like it was quite funny because Colin Firth and Stefan Skarsgård were like, we're both quite tired, eh? And they were just like, then they were just normal. But Pierce was like, holy shit, guys, okay, hold on.
It takes it out of you being Bond, okay?
Yeah, it's just like, whoa. I walked up 4 stairs and now I'm quite exhausted. So, I'm just going to check where we are in terms of time stuff. Okay, cool. We're now going to move towards final thoughts.
Ooh.
Unless anyone has any specific topics you want to table. Mum, after the discussion, having watched the film, what would you say in one phrase, sentence, whatever, or brief statement? What are your thoughts on Mamma Mia 2? Here we go again.
Well, I think it's a real comfort movie. You just possibly. I mean, the thing is, I find Meryl Streep vaguely annoying.
That's all right. I found young Donna vaguely annoying.
I'm just looking up for the lightning strike to come to the ceiling.
She's got too many Oscars. Don't like her.
No, it's not that. I've never found her an actor to whom I particularly... I admire her technically, but she's, I don't have that,
You don't quite see what the hype is.
You don't
she
feel
doesn't
it in your
quite
heart.
work for me.
Yeah.
Whereas, just to take an example from within the cast in the show, Christine Baranski, I have loved with a passion for years. I love everything she does. I've always thought she was totally brilliant.
Yeah.
For me, she always really, really works. And of course, another one is Colin Firth.
Yeah.
Who, he's been in some really terrible things.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really terrible things. But he brings class and style and elegant thought to everything.
Yes.
Both of them do. And so I do find I struggle a bit with both movies in that you're meant to think of not only Meryl Streep but her character as being like almost this living saint, and that is kind of a bit of a problem for me.
Yeah, and also she's kind of mean.
Yeah, she's not.
In this movie, in the sequel, we see her as a teenager. I'm just like, part of me just like, and this is very much like a sort of, but she strikes me so much of the early 1980s equivalent of the kind of, I've just gone off on my gut, yeah.
Yeah, she is a bit.
And I was very like, she seems to be just sort of like a bit self-obsessed and self-absorbed and very sort of like, well, there must be some, like a sort of more pretentious, less intelligent version of Belle from Beauty and the Beast.
I was like, stop running around having adventures and laughing at everything.
Yeah, like, get some fucking miles on the clock, and then she has a baby, and oh god.
But it's just, everybody adores her.
Yeah.
Yes, and she really gets, like, canonized in this movie.
Yeah.
To, like, kind of an absurd degree, and I'm
Whereas
like...
I seem to remember, certainly in the stage show, I'm pretty sure that Sophie actually kind of calls her out for being a bit of a scatty mother.
Yeah, which I think is...
And it's partly, like... part of the plot in the original is like, yeah, you're a scatty mother, but actually I still love you, and I'm kind of drawn towards convention by being like, no, I must marry my boyfriend, and then actually I'm like, no, maybe a little unconvention and free spirit is okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I think this was much more like, but Meryl Streep was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I could honestly be like, nah, man, I'd rather... we've kind of T-boned across your final thought, but you've provoked more discussion on, which is very good. One of the things I would say is that they had the building blocks here for what could have been quite an interesting look, because, as you said, in first film / in the stage show, she's like, look, Mum, we live on this weird island trying to run this weird hotel, and you've never really been there for me specifically.
Also, I have no dads.
And I have no dads, and now I have 3 dads. The fuck?
Well, I know, she's the one who's like, I should bring all the dads.
Yeah.
And then Donna's like, oh my god, you brought all the dads.
But here's the thing, you've got...
I just like saying dads.
But you have Donna as this kind of like, less than stellar mother figure. And this movie could have been a chance to sort of explore both, one, how she came to be that while acknowledging that she was that, which this movie never does, but also looking at the fact that, like, her mother, Cher, is alluded to, and then shows up and is just like, I was never really a good grandmother. And you're like, that's all we're addressing? That's all we're addressing. Okay.
I'm Cher, your criticisms bounce off me.
That's it,
Which is true.
Yes.
How can you criticise Cher? Because it's like you've got the tablecloth. I'm just imagining like a tablecloth stretched over, or cloth of some sort stretched.
Is this
over
like the rubber sheet thing?
Rubber
with,
sheet.
Yeah, with
rubber sheet is better. And then you put into your.
Cher sits on the rubber sheet.
You've got a lot of balls, all made of like plastic, and then you put in a lead ball.
And that's Cher pulls everything in. Yeah.
And everything goes to Cher.
How awesome would it be though if no one had known that Cher was going to be in the movie? And then she'd just show up and you'd be like, hang on, is that Cher?
I mean, I didn't know. Like, the thing was, there's a previous episode of the podcast, I forget which one it is, where Shay and EJ, hey guys, told me about this film and told me Cher was in it. I was like, what do you mean Cher's in it? They're like, Cher just shows up. Like, what do you mean Cher just shows up? And I'm like, yeah, Cher just shows up. Apropos of literally nothing, because Dominic Cooper said, hey Cher, jump in this helicopter. I'll take a boat ahead of you. What?
Cher wouldn't let Dominic Cooper ride in her helicopter.
That's true. He's good, but he's not that good. Mum, do you have any more final thoughts, or are you...
No, I'm done.
Maddie, your final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a good bad film, and it's actually been really interesting discussing about why it's not actually a very good film. But there were some genuine heartwarming moments. Although I'm thinking about like there was a horse and
the horse.
A horse of romance.
Why was the horse in the base? That's not where you keep a horse.
Oh, yeah, that wasn't safe. That horse would have died.
Yeah.
If Donna hadn't
They'd
been
also
there.
tied it to a friggin' major support beam.
Yeah. Basically, there was also a lot of kind of stupid stuff in this movie.
Yes.
But it was quite sweet.
Yes.
Yes.
I will echo the thoughts of my comrades on this podcast. It's fun. It's very silly. But again, this harkens back to kind of how I felt about Mandy, which is a podcast we did earlier, where I just wanted them to go a bit harder and further. And like, if you're going to do it, here's the thing. Hollywood, I know you're listening. I know you want the good ideas. If you're going to do a musical, commit to like... one of the reasons that Chicago as a musical works so well is that they have hard delineation between real world musical stuff.
And they did that intentionally because they were like, we're going to have to work out how to manage this.
Exactly.
So let's make all the musical sequences dream sequences.
Yeah. So if you think of that as kind of like a rough template, but just think that in a musical, anything should be possible. Because when the music is playing and the people are dancing, you're not constrained by just... there's no way that, Greek grandmother would know all of the dance choreography to Dancing Queen. But it's like, it's also no way that those people could get from there to there.
They have to walk the path.
Yeah, it's like, no, they don't.
All must walk the path.
Yeah, like, if you go a bit wilder, I think that would really help sell...
And there were shades of that, like in the Waterloo sequence.
Yeah, there were some really lovely sequences where they did do that, but I wanted the movie to just sort of commit to that a bit more.
It's interesting you mentioned Chicago, because of course I saw that on stage recently, and I must say it's very interesting to see it done in front of you because of exactly what you say, in that it is like watching a beautifully made machine. It is so well planned, and I realised that, as you say, the planning and the way with the economy, it's actually so simple because it's been pared down to make it work really, really neatly.
Yeah.
You've got very complex things happening, but a lot of it, you could get around a lot of it by symbolism or by simply, as you say, ignoring reality. But then it is reality, like the sequence in Chicago where the girl gets hung.
Yes,
oh, yeah.
That's really well done, actually. Yeah.
And that's an example of doing something really complex and difficult and sad, but doing it very effectively with essentially symbolism, but it really gives you a kick in the stomach.
This is the thing. Theatre is much more comfortable with abstract reality. Film, the default setting is like, well, realism should be our palette because that's what we're filming. And it's like, right? Film, we get the people in the costumes on the island and then they'll dance. That's
what this is.
That's what this musical thing is. But if you take a more abstracted view of it, it's a lot more open and audiences will come with you on it, I think. Like, just get a bit weird, get a bit like fucking super colourful and like kind of stuff. Yes, so I've got to remember this isn't going out till the new year. Well, I hope, listeners, you had a lovely Christmas.
A very Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
Yes.
And this will probably be going up, if I think of the number of episodes we have in the tank, this will probably be going up like late January, early February.
I hope your January has not been too terrible.
Yeah, I hope you survived the first month. And let's all go to an island and save Christmas through the power of dance. Jesus Christ, can someone tell me to end the podcast?
Stop it! Stop!